I went to see another very serious film, and I was really up for a serious movie after La La Land. I was like, I've had enough of this popcorn,
Superficial bullshit.
superficial candy bullshit. I want some chewy, like gristly, meaty, nourishing stuff. So Manchester by the Sea is written and directed by Kenneth Lonergan, or Lonergan. It's his third film after a couple of movies that got some buzz but weren't terribly widely seen over a very long period of time. A movie called You Can Count on Me from like 2000, and then another movie called Margaret, which he shot in 2005 and then was embroiled in loads of legal issues over the cutting of it and disputes with the studio. Eventually came out in 2011 and got a pretty good critical reception, but nobody saw it basically. And then on the back of that, he's been trying to get Manchester by the Sea made for a little while. And originally he was going to star Matt Damon and John Krasinski, and that didn't work out for whatever reason. And Casey Affleck stepped in to take the starring role. And this is kind of now, you know, in the narrative of his career, this is now Kenneth Lonergan's moment because everybody loves this movie. Casey Affleck's performance has been very widely heralded, as has that of Lucas Hedges, who's this young 20-year-old actor. The plot is that Casey Affleck plays a guy called Lee Chandler, who's a janitor living in Boston. He's got eking out a bit of a grim existence with people in his... he's like a residential janitor for a particular building, and like the people there don't treat him that well, and he gets into bar fights in the evenings. And then he receives news that his brother has fallen ill, and he has to travel to his hometown of Manchester, which is apparently near to Boston. And when he gets there, he ends up having to look after his brother's son, his nephew called Patrick, who's played by Lucas Hedges. And he also carries with him a dark past.
Oh my God.
And that, you know, adds extra tension, and he has to kind of wrestle with his past and re-encountering all these people who he left behind when he left Manchester. Here's a clip of Lee and Patrick bickering.
We're not going to be here that much longer.
I'm not moving to Boston, Uncle Lee.
No, I don't want to talk about that
You
right
said
now.
you left you money so you could move.
Yeah, that doesn't mean...
Anyway, what's in Boston? You're a janitor.
So what?
You could do that anywhere. There's plenty of toilets and clogged up drains all over
I
town.
don't want to
All
talk
my friends
about
are here. I'm on the hockey team. I'm on the basketball team. I gotta maintain our boat now.
You can't
I work on
maintain-
George's boat 2 days a week. I got 2 girlfriends, and I'm in a band. You're a janitor in Quincy. What the hell do you care where you live?
So I thought it was excellent. It's very good. It was nourishing dramatically in exactly the way, you know, that I wanted.
Excellent.
And a film that feels incredibly honest and true to life and psychologically real. So in many ways, a good thing to see after watching La La Land. The outline of the plot, the kind of basic setup of it, where there's like a dour guy with a dark past, and he like goes back to his hometown, and everyone treats him a bit weird, and he can't connect with people. It kind of sounds a little corny, like, or certainly that it has the potential to be corny. It's a bit of a sort of everyday TV weepy style thing, but it was almost turned into an advantage by the director, because that creates certain expectations which he is then able to subvert, and it gives him an opportunity to portray the kinds of relationships that you've seen done in millions of times in like the same kind of way, in a very fresh and real seeming way. The story is very well told. It's kind of a long movie, but it doesn't feel like insanely long. I sort of thought it was like mega long, but it's like, it's over 2 hours, but it just kind of takes its time, and it feels like it is about the right length. And the thing that I thought made the drama of the movie so interesting is that it's got this real fixation on the minutiae of life, but also the way in which the challenges that you have personally are reflected in basically every aspect of your day and of your waking life. And so like a lot of like naturalistic dramas are about little things, you know, like little quiet dramas where people are in small towns and they just like mumble to each other across a table. Like those movies are inherently always about like little observations and stuff. But the thing that's so skillful about this film is how it creates so much drama out of that, and also a surprising amount of comedy. It's like pretty funny, like in parts, especially the relationship between Casey Affleck's character and Lucas Hedges' character. They have some good sort of comedy bickering and stuff. But basically the kind of, what I felt like the movie was about is the way in which people carry suffering, and how you are constantly processing the conflict within yourself and managing it in order to produce an exterior which is like a coherent, normal person. And what makes the film so gripping from scene to scene is the way in which Casey Affleck is obviously a guy with issues or whatever, but that he is constantly thinking about his reply to things and making all these decisions in his mind about, like, he just understands dealing with his mental state. And you can see this process going on that is then, like, produces his, like, very, low-key remarks. But there's always something happening, you know?
Okay.
I think it's both sort of dramatically interesting because there's a kind of like constant perpetual motion sense to it, but also quite true to life, I think, because a lot of movies portray development or like dramatic development as a kind of question of personal growth, where you just sort of show the problems that a character has, and then there's like 3 different things that happen to them, and then as a result they learn a lesson and then they kind of move on.
Yeah.
But the way in which I think it's the way this movie does it is more true to human nature, which is that if you are carrying a burden or if you have particular concerns that are like on your mind, that rather than just throwing up a kind of branching path where it's like, do we need to take this big decision or that big decision, that you actually are making constant little decisions all the time, and that it informs everything that you do.
Yeah.
And it's like ongoing, and seeing these characters navigate these hurdles continually is very interesting, and is like really, really well done. It's a very like thoughtful and considered film, and very thoughtful in considering characters. And I think it's overcomes the potential cliches of the like, I'm a miserable guy because something bad happened to me, or the kid who is like a bit too precocious but he's actually sad or whatever. It just makes all that stuff feel really real. And the performances are like as good as you heard. I knew everybody would like to hate Casey Affleck in this movie because there've been all these accusations around his like passive sexual assault, and the lawsuits have taken out against him by people who've worked on his movies. And I mean, if people are like, I won't see this movie because of that, then I think that's like completely reasonable. But purely within the context of the film, his performance is very, very good. And Lucas Hedges is only 20 years old and hopefully hasn't had time to develop his like dark past of sexually abusing his co-stars. So we can hopefully just appreciate him without any problematic aspects. And the supporting cast are also very, very good. Michelle Williams is in it, and she only has about 3 scenes really, but she's doing something very different in all of them, and she absolutely kills it. I love Michelle Williams.
Crushes it.
She crushes it. She always like brings her absolute A game to everything, and she just turns up in this movie as though she's been filming her own film about herself.
Yeah.
And so when she has like a climactic scene, it's like in a separate film, it was all building to this.
Yeah.
But she didn't have that many lines, so she just turned up on the day and just does it, and it's like excellent. She's absolutely brilliant in it. If I was going to nitpick, there are a couple of these supporting characters a little more broadly drawn, and I think because everything else feels so heartfelt and naturalistic, it stands out a little bit. And Matthew Broderick is in the film for some reason, and he is plays one half. Why is Broderick in the
Bueller?
Bueller? What are you doing? He's got like quite a minor role, and he's one half of a couple of like squeaky clean, like boring sort of shirt and sweater type, very Christian people.
Nerds.
I feel like these people crop up in movies all the time because like artists and directors don't like them. You don't need a shorthand for like boring people. It's like they love Jesus, they serve boring, bland foods, and they don't have any sense of humor,
Yeah.
So this sort of thing where you can tell who they are immediately on seeing them, where it's not true to the other characters in the movie. But it only stands out because everything else feels so authentic. And the score is also not particularly notable and is like very on the nose. It's like in a few scenes, he doesn't use it all the way through. It's not overscored. There's just a few scenes where it's like he's basically gone on YouTube and typed in like sad strings, and just the first thing that came up he's used in the film. So it doesn't feel like the most, like as much care was necessarily put into the soundtrack as like the other aspects of the movie. But it didn't particularly bother me. It just wasn't something that stood out as being as good as everything else. So yeah, I really recommend it. It's very touching. I found it emotional.
You cried?
I cried a little bit. Yeah, it worked on me. And you should go see it.
Cool.
It's very well mounted, beautifully acted, very nuanced, and goes small rather than goes big in a way that is very dramatically successful.
Cool. I'm going to check it out.